The story of Adam and Eve and the forbidden fruit is one of the most iconic and widely discussed narratives in the Bible, found in the book of Genesis, chapters 2 and 3. The text itself contains layers of meaning about knowledge, choice, mortality, and human responsibility. The text itself contains layers of meaning about knowledge, choice, mortality, and human responsibility. To understand what Adam and Eve truly lost, it is necessary to examine the details carefully. According to Genesis, God created the first human, Adam, and placed him in the Garden of Eden, a lush, fertile environment filled with trees and rivers. Among the garden's many trees were two of particular importance, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam was given freedom to eat from any tree, except one. God's command was explicit: "You may freely eat of every tree of the garden. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die." The text emphasizes not merely a prohibition, but a moral framework. Eating from the tree would represent a deliberate choice to overstep boundaries set by God, the ultimate moral authority. Scholars note that the narrative frames human autonomy within divine order. Adam and Eve are given freedom, but within limits. The presence of the forbidden tree introduces the concept of moral responsibility, the capacity to choose and face consequences. Eve is then introduced to the narrative more fully when God forms her from Adam's rib. The text portrays their relationship as intimate and complementary. Both are naked and unashamed, highlighting innocence and the absence of fear or guilt prior to disobedience. This imagery underscores a state of original purity. The critical moment arrives with the serpent. Described as more cunning than any other beast of the field, the serpent's role is to question God's command, asking Eve, "Did God really say, 'You shall not eat of any tree in the garden'?" This represents the first challenge to divine authority in the text and introduces temptation as a subtle, psychological process. The serpent misrepresents the consequences, claiming that eating the fruit will open the eyes of Adam and Eve and make them like God, knowing good and evil. Eve's decision to eat the fruit, followed by Adam's, marks the first exercise of human choice against explicit divine instruction. The text does not describe the fruit itself in detail, often popularly imagined as an apple, but this is likely symbolic. The emphasis is on the act of disobedience, not botanical specifics. Immediately after eating, Adam and Eve experience profound change. They perceive their nakedness and sew fig leaves together as coverings. This is the first recorded sense of shame, an emotional and moral awareness previously absent. They hide from God when he comes to walk in the garden, reflecting fear and a breakdown of intimate trust. The consequences unfold in several dimensions. First, there is the loss of innocence. Adam and Eve gain moral awareness, which carries the burden of self-consciousness, guilt, and fear. Their relationship with each other and with God changes fundamentally. Where once there was openness and trust, there is now anxiety, blame, and alienation. Second, there is a practical and physical loss. God pronounces specific curses. The serpent is cursed to crawl on its belly. Eve will experience pain in childbirth, and Adam will labor under the soil for sustenance. These consequences link human disobedience to the realities of mortality, toil, and suffering. Third, there is exile from Eden. God places cherubim and a flaming sword to guard the way to the tree of life. This separation symbolizes the removal from immediate divine protection and the forfeiture of immortality, accessible through the tree of life. From a theological perspective, this is often interpreted as humanity gaining mortality and the ability to fully experience life's consequences, a necessary aspect of free will. Beyond the literal narrative, the story carries deeper symbolic meaning. The act of eating from the tree represents the human pursuit of knowledge and autonomy. Adam and Eve's choice illustrates the tension between freedom and obedience, curiosity, and prudence. It also introduces the concept of sin, not merely as breaking rules, but as the recognition that actions have consequences for oneself and others. The narrative sets the stage for the ongoing biblical theme of redemption and reconciliation. From a psychological perspective, the story reflects universal human experiences. The moment of choice, temptation, realization of wrongdoing, and the resulting shame mirrors internal moral development. Ancient readers could see in this narrative not only an explanation for mortality and labor, but also a profound reflection on human growth, responsibility, and relational dynamics. Historically, some scholars note parallels with other ancient Near Eastern texts where humans encounter divine laws and face consequences for disobedience. While these parallels do not reduce the narrative's theological significance, they suggest that the Eden story engaged with broader cultural ideas about morality, the human condition, and divine authority. In terms of personal reflection, I believe the story of Adam and Eve is less about the literal loss of a single fruit and more about the transformation of human consciousness. What was truly lost was innocence, certainty, and an untested relationship with God and each other. What was gained, paradoxically, was awareness, moral choice, and the capacity for meaningful life, even if it comes with pain and struggle. The narrative captures the tension between freedom and responsibility, showing that every choice carries both risk and opportunity. In that sense, Adam and Eve's experience is deeply relatable. It mirrors the human journey of learning, growing, and facing consequences, making the story timeless and profoundly human.